Hey, this is Tracy again with Alco Builders and Realty. We have another interview with the founder of Alco Builders and Realty, and that is Bill Cox. Bill and his brother Charlie created Alco, and he was one of the first licensed realtors in our area. So we have a discussion about him actually getting his license, and I hope you enjoy that.
So I had a lot of people wanting me to sell, so I seen a need that I need a real estate license in order to do this. And at the time, there's only a couple of realtors that was grandfathered in Norfolk. But although the test had to be, at the time now, you had to work for a realtor for a couple of years as a
affiliate
broker. And then, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to go.
You've been doing it.
I didn't rather work for it. Nobody really did work for a year. So I made an application up, and I had something nearly 40 or 50 houses that I'd sold at different times. Some of them FHA, how they was financed, what I had done cash and how I closed them, and I put my application in to take this test for my broker's license. That was in 1972. I got the broker's license. At the time, I was probably the only person that had been licensed through the testing.
Right. Instead of grandfather.
Right. Probably. I don't think anyone else had been had a realtor's license at that time in 1972. And then I really enjoyed the business, and I'd done most of the selling of houses I built because I was building several houses a year, and I got up to 1982. I had several houses on the market, and by this time, I'll say the Carter.
Not to be political, but we were in a bad state right then, weren't we, in this country?
Things went tough, and prime rate went completely out of sight, and it cost, I'd sell a house, and I would, at the time you could actually set money aside. You had to pay in front cash for so much money. If you wanted to buy $100,000 worth of credit over there, you could buy it by putting it, and then it was less points. It cut your points down. The points may be 8%.
Right.
And if you borrowed this money, you could get it down where the points would be only 5%.
Right.
Well, I was building enough houses, well to do that.
Right.
To buy some points and get it down. And another thing about selling houses, when I built houses, like I built some houses at the golf course and stuff like that, and those conventional loans, and I could go down to First Federal Savings Loan, and
so you could say, I'm selling Tracy this house.
yeah, and Mr. Hollingsworth would go, Mr. Hollingsworth would say, well, let's go and look at it. I said, look, I got this house sold. I got it sold for $25,000, and they've got 20% down. And, well, let's go out and look at it. You go out and look at it.
Get in the car. The bank president or the bank, whatever he was.
Yeah, he was president.
Bank president.
Says, we'll go out and look at it. I mean, this happened that one time, but really in particular, I remember it. He said, we'll go look at it, and came back in, and he says, yeah, it's okay. He says, be in here in the morning before 11 o'clock. They didn't have no right precision then. He said, you be back in here in the morning about 11 o'clock, and we'll close because he's a farmer. And he said, I got to go to the cattle sale.
So I'm going to get this deal done for you, but you got to do it before I got to go to the cattle sale. Can you imagine, do you know that right now it's an 11-page contract that I write? And that takes probably 2 days just to get everybody signed and to get it bound, which means everybody's agreed, everybody's signed, everybody knows. And then once we get that bound, a 30-day closing is pedal to the metal to get it done in 30 days. And you were getting it done in 24 hours. One time.
You know how the system, the way it is? Again, I say that don't need to be all that work, all that paperwork.
You don't need to kill all those trees, do you?
I know the paper business would say that. But I sold a lot of houses before I got a real estate license, and I needed to see what I needed for the real estate license. And after I get the real estate license, I didn't really list as many houses.
You didn't go out and do like we do now.
No.
We list everybody's house and
Right.
do them everywhere. Yeah, we've
I have a
changed
real
the
estate
market.
license, but you're a realtor.
Well, I don't have anything else to sell. If I don't go out and kill it, I don't drag it back in here, I don't have anything else to sell. So that's why it's a little bit different. You kind of had a ready-made business model. Excuse me, you would build them and then you would sell them.
Right.
And then you would build them and then you would sell them. And that was super because you didn't have to go out and try to find something else to sell.
Right.
You were creating your own inventory. So I know you were in the military, you were in the Army.
I was Air Force.
Okay. Went into the Army, came out in the Air Force, or
No.
went into the Air Force?
Well, actually, when I went in, it was the Army Air Corps.
Okay, before the Air Force.
The Air Force. The day I went in 1947, which is with the age of 14. In 1947, at the end of 47, the last day of 47, the Army Air Corps became the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
So I was in the Army Air Corps. When the Air Force was first formed, I was one of the first, along with thousands of others, was member of the. I was an original member of the U.S. Air Force. Okay. We changed our signatures and everything, and went on blue stripes.
So it changed over.
And,
So, and Charlie was Navy?
Charlie was.
Is that right? Okay.
Charlie got drafted in the Navy. I was getting drafted. He was going to get drafted, and he got his draft notice to come to the draft, and he went and joined the Navy that day. He'd going in the Army, so he went in the Navy for 4 years, and he went in 1950. I had got out of service in January the 10th, 1950, and he's got drafted. I was going to school, then I went to school at LMU, and I was going to school at LMU when he got drafted. So they laughed at me when I went to service at 14.
Now, nobody knew.
Their career was coming up.
Well, yeah, but nobody knew that you were 14.
Oh, no.
You
no.
lied about your age.
Actually.
But you embellished your age.
I was thought I had to have a birth certificate, and I went in and signed up the first day as Charles Cox. And he was on March the 7th, 1947. He was 17.
Oh, so you used his.
I went in right then in April, so he's a month.
Yeah.
So I go in 47, and I was going to use his name and his age. See?
You didn't see any problem with that.
Well, I got down there and I found out they didn't ask me any questions, so I said, I've got that name really, my real name is Bill Cox. And
Let's
they
get
said-
this right.
And my age, and I didn't ask for anything. I said, yeah, no.
So you used his age still
March,
yet?
Yeah, March 7th, 1930. And they said, well, at 17 you have to have your mother or your parents to sign for you. And I said, well, my father's deceased. I had that down. But I had my mother was living. She said, well, your mother will have to sign for you. Well, I didn't know where my mother was at the time, but I did find out that she was over in Leatherwood, Kentucky. So I got a hold of her. I hadn't seen her for years, but I got a hold of her that evening, and she said, well, ain't no way I'll sign for you.
She didn't want you to go.
I said, Frank, you've done so much for me. I really appreciate you.
See ya.
I come back and I went down the next day, and I said, well, I found out, I told them before I didn't know where my mother was at. I said, I come back, I said, well, I found out my mother's deceased too. So they just put on top of it. They said, your guardian will have to sign for you. I said, I don't have a guardian. My guardian, I just got kicked out of school.
So you didn't want to come back to that. That shit sailed. You didn't want to come back to that.
So I said, I don't have a guardian. So where you spend the night last night? And I said, with my uncle. Right there. Well, that's your guardian. I said, no.
Well, they were just trying to make it happen for you, weren't they? Were they getting paid by the head up there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Recruiters, they had to get recruiters. So he said, your uncle, that's your guardian. I said, well, my uncle was the youngest of the kids, of my grandmother's kids, and he was about that much older than me. But I knew where he's at because he worked second shift in the mines, and every day he'd be over at the pool room shooting a little pool before he went to work. So he said, I went over, I said, Ed, I need you to sign some papers for me. He said, well, I'll do anything you need for me, Bill. I said, we have to go over here to the courthouse, you gotta be notarized. So he went to the courthouse, he notarized those papers. The next night I was off to Louisville, Kentucky. I'd never been anywhere outside No Follett, 100 miles radius, anywhere.
And what were you wearing?
At that time, my other uncle, my marriage, was about my size, and he gave me a
A suit.
suit, brown pinstripe suit he had. I put that suit on, and I go to Fort Knox. I took to Louisville, take a bus to Louisville, and from there they had military transport out to Fort Knox. And I got in that bus going to Fort Knox, and I got in the seat, and I ripped the pants completely out of the bottom of the seat. And I didn't have nothing else on. I took the coat off and tied it around.
I remembered something about that suit getting messed up, that's why I asked.
Took the coat off and tied it around the back, walked around that suit. So I had that, I had to wire that, and use that. See, there was 120 of us trying to get in the Air Force, and you'd have to take these tests and stuff. There's 9 of us made it. So they said, take our physicals and everything in Fort Knox. I spent about 2 weeks there, I guess. So we go out to, they said, everybody be at the train stations, like at 12 o'clock tonight. Be at the train station in Fort Knox. So I get out to the train station, so Cox, I said, yes. My name was first on that thing of order, so they said, Cox, I said, yes, sir. They said, here, you take these people.
You're 14.
You're in charge of people. You take them to.
I wouldn't give a 14-year-old the responsibility of my 16-year-old poodle. Well, they thought you were legit.
I was first one. No, I was first out that order.
Yeah.
You know.
ABC,
Yeah.
C's first, yeah.
Oh, they just said the fella. So we get on that train. That's when I got on that train. I got down to Louisiana, Mississippi. We going to New Orleans next morning, and they didn't have a caboose to that train, you know.
Just ends.
Yeah, I walked all the way to the back. You know how they back deck of the last car, and I'm standing on that deck out there myself, and I'm looking. I'm hanging over there. I'm looking at all that. That train's going clickety 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 click, and I look at it. I says, "Hell, Bill, what have you done?" I said, "You'll never see Tennessee again."
But you weren't involved in Korea
No,
at 47.
no, I didn't see. I'm very fortunate. The Korean War, I got discharged January the 10th, 1950.
Okay.
I got my 3 years service in. Got out in 1950.
And you're 17.
I'm 17. I'm the youngest person, one of the youngest people that ever lived at 17. Because I started before August, before I was 18. But anyway, the Korean War didn't start till after the summer of 50 when it really burst out, see. And they started.
Have you ever been to that war memorial in Washington, D.C.? The Korean War Memorial?
No.
Have you ever been? It's the neatest one I've ever been to. You all really should go. It's. I mean, I don't know if you have any interest in going to something like that, but it's really neat. It's my favorite one.
I was supposed to be on something down at Ed Bayless put me on. I've never seen it, have we?
You know, at the courthouse.
Yeah, I saw it. It's there. Your name and the correct date.
Ed wasn't making a point of it. Ed did it. I didn't do it. But anyway, no, I was fortunate about that in the sense I didn't have to go to my brother.
Now, if it would have happened while you were in, would they have not let you out, maybe?
I would have been in for the duration.
Yeah, then you were very, very fortunate. Because you didn't have to leave the country.
No, actually,
Or did you?
well, I went to Alaska.
Okay.
That's not the country. It wasn't then it was the state.
Really? It was not a state when you went?
No, it was a possession then. See, we
You're
didn't.
getting up there.
Huh?
You're getting up there.
Yeah. No, it was just a possession at the time.